When my ex-husband looked across the courtroom and said, "She's not your real mom," something in me crumbled like a sandcastle hit by a wave. But what my daughter said next, what she said without trembling or raising her voice, left the entire courtroom frozen in disbelief, including me. That moment is burned into my memory like a photograph that never fades, a quiet earthquake that changed the landscape of our lives forever. We were sitting in the county courthouse, surrounded by polished wooden benches, fluorescent lights that made everyone look sickly, and the unmistakable tension of lives being decided by strangers. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. I should have anticipated this. I should have known better than to expect decency from a man who had spent years trying to erase me from my daughter's life. But somehow, even after everything, his words still had the power to wound me. Maybe because this time, they weren't just aimed at me. They were designed to cut through Lily, my daughter, the person I'd give my life to protect. My name is Olivia Mitchell. I'm 39, a physical therapist, a wife to my second husband, Daniel, and most importantly, a mother to Lily, who came into my life when she was just 3 years old. Back then, she was a tiny thing with wild blonde curls and a smile that could light up the darkest room, but eyes that carried shadows no child should know. Her father, Connor, had gotten custody after his brief marriage to Lily's biological mother ended. Jessica had struggled with addiction and eventually decided she couldn't be the mother Lily needed. She signed away her parental rights and disappeared from Lily's life before I ever entered the picture. I met Connor at a friend's barbecue when Lily was clinging to his leg, shy and watchful of the adults around her. I didn't fall for Connor right away. It was Lily who captured my heart first. She had dropped her stuffed rabbit into a puddle, and I rescued it, cleaned it with napkins, and performed an elaborate bunny surgery that made her giggle for the first time that day. Connor looked at me like I'd performed actual magic. 6 months later, we were married. The early years were beautiful in their simplicity. Lily and I formed a bond that grew with each bedtime story, each scraped knee I bandaged, each nightmare I soothed away in the darkness. She started calling me Mom on her own, about a year after Connor and I married. It wasn't something we pushed, it just happened naturally, like the most precious gift I could have ever received. Connor seemed happy then, pleased that his daughter had a mother figure who adored her. But our marriage began to unravel in ways I never saw coming. Connor's charming exterior masked a person who grew increasingly controlling, critical, and eventually, cruel. The man who had once looked at me with gratitude for loving his daughter began to use that very love as a weapon against me. "You're trying too hard?" he'd say when I stayed up late making Lily's costume for the school play. "She knows you're not her real mother," he'd whisper after Lily and I spent a day baking cookies together. When I finally found the courage to leave after 7 years of marriage, I didn't just leave Connor. I had to leave our home, the stability I'd tried to create for Lily, and worst of all, I had to leave Lily herself, at least part-time. Connor immediately filed for full custody, claiming I had no biological connection to his daughter, and therefore, no right to her. What followed was an 18-month nightmare of legal battles, supervised visitations, and watching Lily's light dim as she was caught in a war she never asked for. Through it all, Lily, now 11, remained the extraordinary person she'd always been, resilient, perceptive, and fiercely loving. During our court-approved weekends together, she would wrap her arms around me and whisper, "You're still my mom," as if she knew exactly what I needed to hear to keep fighting. Those moments sustained me through the darkest times, when Connor's lawyers were painting me as an interloper with no biological claim, when the legal system seemed determined to reduce motherhood to a matter of DNA. I remarried during this time, not to replace what I'd lost, but because I found in Daniel something I hadn't known in my marriage to Connor: partnership, respect, and unwavering support. Daniel never tried to replace Lily's father. Instead, he became another person in her corner, another adult who put her needs above his own. Connor, predictably, used my new marriage as further ammunition, telling the courts I had moved on from his daughter. The court date that changed everything was supposed to be routine, another hearing in a seemingly endless series, this one to review the current custody arrangement. I had been granted weekend visitations, but Connor was pushing to reduce even those, claiming that my influence was confusing for Lily and that she needed to accept her real family structure without my interference. I wore a navy blue dress that day, something conservative and unmemorable. Daniel sat behind me, a steady presence. Lily was brought in halfway through the proceedings because the judge wanted to speak with her directly, something that hadn't happened in previous hearings. She looked so small in that massive courtroom, her shoulders squared with a determination that broke my heart. She'd grown taller in the past year, her blonde curls now falling past her shoulders, her face losing some of its childish roundness. But her eyes were the same, intelligent, observant, missing nothing. Connor sat across the aisle, confident in his pressed suit, with his new girlfriend beside him. Charlotte was 26, a decade younger than me, and had been making it clear she was ready to step into the mother role for Lily. She'd been dating Connor for 6 months and had already started a mommy blog about blended families that made me physically ill when I discovered it. The judge, an older woman with silver-rimmed glasses and a reputation for fairness, asked Lily some standard questions about school, her home life, and her feelings about the current arrangement. Lily answered politely but briefly, her eyes darting between her father and me. I could see her choosing her words carefully, trying not to upset anyone. My heart ached watching her navigate a situation no child should have to face. Then the judge asked the question that would change everything. Lily, can you tell me how you feel about spending time with Mrs. Mitchell? Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the story. Before Lily could answer, Connor interrupted, his voice carrying clearly across the courtroom. Your Honor, if I may, she's not Lily's real mom. This constant back and forth is confusing my daughter about who her family actually is. The judge frowned at the interruption, but Connor continued, seemingly unable to help himself. Charlotte and I are providing Lily with a stable, traditional home. Olivia is just... Mr. Reynolds, the judge warned, you've had your time to speak. But the damage was done. His words hung in the air like poison. I felt my stomach clench, my hands grow cold. Not because this was the first time he'd said such things. I'd heard variations of this for years. But because this time, he'd said it in front of Lily, in front of the judge who held our future in her hands. I looked at Lily, expecting to see hurt or confusion on her face. Instead, I saw something shift in her expression. A hardening, a decision being made. She straightened her spine and, without being called on, stood up from her chair. Your Honor, she said, her voice clear and steady in a way that belied her 11 years. May I please say something? The judge seemed surprised but nodded. Yes, Lily. This hearing is about what's best for you, so I'd like to hear what you have to say. Lily turned slightly, so she could see both the judge and her father. She took a deep breath, and in that moment, I saw a glimpse of the woman she would someday become. Brave, principled, unafraid to speak her truth even when her voice shook. My dad keeps saying that Olivia isn't my real mom, she began, her small hands clasped tightly in front of her. But I don't think he understands what real means. The courtroom, which had been filled with the usual shuffling and whispers, fell completely silent. Even the court reporter's fingers seemed to pause over her machine. A real mom, Lily continued, is someone who checks for monsters under your bed even when she's really tired. A real mom helps you with your science project until midnight because you forgot it was due tomorrow. A real mom knows that you hate the crusts on your sandwiches, but you love the crusts on pizza. Her voice grew stronger with each example, and I felt tears building behind my eyes, threatening to spill over. A real mom, Lily said, looking directly at Connor now, holds you when you cry about things you don't even understand. She teaches you how to stand up for yourself, but also how to be kind to others. She makes you feel safe when everything else feels scary. Connor's face had drained of color. Charlotte shifted uncomfortably beside him. My biological mother couldn't be those things for me, and that's okay. She made the best choice she could. But Olivia chose to be all those things for me, even when it was hard, even when my dad made it really, really hard. I couldn't hold back the tears anymore. They slid silently down my cheeks as my daughter, this extraordinary brave girl, continued to speak her truth. When I'm at Dad's house, I have to pretend that I don't miss her. I have to hide my pictures of us. I have to act like Charlotte is going to be my new mom, even though she doesn't even know what my favorite book is, or that I'm allergic to strawberries. Charlotte flinched visibly at this revelation. I hadn't known that Lily was hiding our photos. The thought of her feeling she needed to conceal our relationship broke something inside me. Your Honor, Lily said, turning back to the judge, I know I'm just a kid and kids don't get to decide these things. But if being a real mom is about biology, then I guess I don't have one. But if being a real mom is about who actually mothers, you who loves you and protects you and makes you feel like you matter, then Olivia is my real mom. And I need her in my life. Not just on weekends, not just when it's convenient for everyone else. She paused, took another deep breath, and delivered the sentence that would echo in that courtroom long after we all left. If my dad makes me choose between having a real mom who loves me and having his version of a perfect family that just looks good on the outside, then I choose my mom. Every time. The silence that followed was absolute. The judge removed her glasses, rubbed the bridge of her nose, and for a moment looked less like an impartial arbiter of justice and more like a human being moved by the wisdom of a child. Connor stared at his daughter as if seeing her for the first time, not as an extension of himself or a pawn in our ongoing battle, but as her own person with her own mind and heart. I couldn't move, couldn't speak. Part of me wanted to rush to Lily, to wrap her in my arms and shield her from the consequences of her bravery. But another part of me knew this was her moment, her voice finally being heard after years of adults talking over and around her. The judge thanked Lily for her honesty and asked her to return to the waiting area so the adults could discuss what she'd said. As Lily walked past me, she reached out and squeezed my hand briefly, a small gesture that contained a universe of meaning between us. What followed was a conversation unlike any we'd had in the previous hearings. The judge spoke directly to Connor, her tone measured but firm. Mr. Reynolds, I've presided over hundreds of custody cases, and I've learned that children often understand the reality of their family dynamics better than the adults involved. Your daughter has made it abundantly clear that Mrs. Mitchell has been a consistent, loving maternal presence in her life. While biology is one factor in determining parental relationships, it is far from the only one, especially in cases where a child has formed a deep attachment over many years. Connor attempted to interject, but the judge held up her hand. I'm not finished. This court's primary concern is Lily's emotional well-being. From what I've observed today, attempts to sever or diminish her relationship with Mrs. Mitchell are causing your daughter significant distress. That goes against what any loving parent would want for their child. For the first time since I'd known him, Connor seemed at a loss for words. His attorney whispered something to him, but he shook his head slightly, his eyes fixed on the floor. The judge continued, I'm ordering a more equitable custody arrangement, effective immediately. Mrs. Mitchell will have Lily on alternating weeks, with shared holidays and school breaks. Additionally, I'm requiring family therapy for all parties involved, including your girlfriend if she continues to be part of Lily's life. She looked at me then. Mrs. Mitchell, This arrangement assumes you will continue to facilitate a positive relationship between Lily and her father, despite the difficulties you've faced. Of course, Your Honor, I managed to say, my voice thick with emotion. Lily loves her father. I've never wanted to change that. The judge nodded, satisfied. Then we're adjourned. I expect to see a detailed parenting plan on my desk by the end of the week. As people began to move around us, gathering papers and whispering about what had just occurred, I sat perfectly still, trying to absorb what had happened. Daniel's hand came to rest on my shoulder, a gentle pressure that anchored me to the moment. She did it, he said softly. She changed everything. And she had. My daughter, who had been caught in the crossfire of adult anger and ego for so long, had found the courage to speak not just for herself, but for the truth of what family really means. In that moment, I felt a pride so fierce it was almost painful. Not because she had chosen me, but because she had chosen authenticity over pretense, love over convention, truth over comfortable lies. Connor approached us as we gathered our things to leave. Charlotte had already disappeared, perhaps sensing that her role in the narrative had fundamentally changed. He looked older somehow, the confidence that had carried him through the previous hearings replaced by something more subdued, more thoughtful. I didn't know, he said quietly, his eyes meeting mine briefly before looking away. I didn't know she felt that way. Part of me wanted to lash out, to ask how he could possibly not have known, how he could have been so blind to his daughter's pain. But the larger part of me, the part that had always tried to be the mother Lily deserved, recognized that this moment could be a turning point if I allowed it to be. She loves you, Connor, I said. That's never been in question. She just needs all of us to stop fighting and start listening. He nodded, a small, jerky movement. The therapist thing. I think it's a good idea. For all of us. It wasn't an apology, not really, but it was an acknowledgement. And after years of being treated as an intruder in my own daughter's life, it felt like the first crack in a wall I'd begun to believe was impenetrable. As we left the courthouse, Lily was waiting in the hallway, her backpack clutched to her chest like a shield. When she saw us, her eyes searched our faces anxiously, looking for clues about what had happened after she left. I knelt down in front of her, taking her small hands in mine. You were so brave in there, I told her, my voice barely above a whisper. So incredibly brave. Did it help? She asked, her eyes wide and hopeful. Yes, I said, unable to keep the smile from spreading across my face. It helped a lot. We're going to be spending a lot more time together now. Her face lit up, but then a shadow of worry crossed it. Is Dad mad at me? Before I could answer, Connor stepped forward and crouched down beside me, so that both of us were at Lily's eye level. No, Lilybug, he said, using the nickname from her toddler years. I'm not mad. I'm sorry I didn't understand how important Olivia is to you. I was. He paused, seeming to choose his words carefully. I was thinking about what I wanted, not what you needed. It was perhaps the most honest thing I'd ever heard him say, and in that moment, I felt a glimmer of hope that perhaps we could find a way forward that didn't involve tearing Lily in two. The days that followed the hearing were both exhilarating and terrifying. Exhilarating because Lily would be coming to live with Daniel and me for a full week, the longest uninterrupted time we'd had together since the separation. Terrifying, because I knew how fragile this new arrangement was, how easily it could shatter if the adults involved couldn't put aside their grievances. I spent those days preparing Lily's room in our home, making sure everything was perfect. Daniel helped me hang fairy lights around her window and build a reading nook in the corner with pillows and a small bookshelf filled with her favorites. We weren't trying to compete with Connor's house or buy Lily's affection. We were simply creating a space where she could feel completely at home, completely herself. The evening before Lily was due to arrive for her first week-long stay, I sat on the edge of her bed, running my hand over the quilt we had made together during one of our weekend visits. Each square contained a memory: fabric from the dress she wore to my wedding to Daniel, a piece of the t-shirt from her first summer camp, the remnants of the curtains from her nursery in the house Connor and I had shared. It was a tactile history of our life together, fragmented but still connected, still whole in its own way. Daniel found me there, lost in thought. He sat beside me, his steady presence a comfort I had come to rely on more than I could express. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, his hand finding mine in the dim light. "Everything," I admitted. "How close we came to losing her. How much damage has been done. Whether we can really move forward from here." He was quiet for a moment, considering. Daniel never rushed to fill silences with empty reassurances, one of the countless reasons I had fallen in love with him. "I can't promise it will be easy," he finally said, "but I can promise that Lily will never doubt she's loved here. And sometimes, that's enough to heal even the deepest wounds." I leaned against his shoulder, drawing strength from his unwavering belief that families, even complicated, messy, non-traditional ones like ours, could find their way through the darkness if they just kept moving toward the light. When the doorbell rang the next afternoon, my heart leapt into my throat. I opened the door to find Lily standing there, her suitcase beside her, Connor's car idling in the driveway behind her. Her smile was tentative but real, a small sun breaking through clouds. "Hi, Mom," she said, and those two simple words filled every empty space inside me. I'm home. And she was. Not because of a judge's ruling or a legal document, but because home isn't about biology or legal definitions or societal expectations. Home is where you are seen and known and loved for exactly who you are. It's where you don't have to hide your photos or pretend your heart isn't split between two houses. It's where you can speak your truth and know it will be heard. As I wrapped my arms around my daughter, my brave, wise, beautiful daughter, I made a silent promise to her and to myself. No matter what challenges lay ahead, no matter how many more battles we might have to fight, I would never let her forget what she had taught all of us in that courtroom. That being a real parent has nothing to do with DNA and everything to do with love. That family isn't defined by blood but by belonging. And that sometimes the most powerful voice in the room isn't the loudest or the oldest. It's the one speaking from the heart. Lily stepped into our home, Daniel helping with her suitcase, and I closed the door behind us. Not to shut out the past or to pretend the complications didn't exist, but to create a sanctuary where we could begin to write the next chapter of our story together. A story that, thanks to Lily's courage, now had the chance to become something none of us had dared to hope for. A family defined not by what we had lost, but by what we had found in each other. The first week of our new custody arrangement was a delicate dance of emotions, routines, and unspoken fears. I'd wake up each morning with a start, momentarily panicking that it had all been a dream, that Lily wasn't really in the bedroom down the hall, that the judge's ruling would be reversed, that Connor would find some new legal loophole to exploit. Then I'd hear her shuffling in the kitchen, usually helping Daniel make breakfast, and relief would wash over me like a cleansing rain. We established new rhythms together: school drop-offs and pickups, homework at the dining table, dinner conversations that meandered from serious topics to fits of laughter over inside jokes that Daniel good-naturedly pretended to understand. Each night I tucked Lily in with a ritual we'd maintained since she was tiny: 3 kisses on the forehead, a whispered, "Love you to the moon," and her whispered response, and back again. On the 5th night, as I was about to turn off her bedside lamp, Lily caught my wrist gently. "Mom," she said, her voice small in the dim room, "are you mad at me for what I said in court?" The question caught me off guard. I sat back down on the edge of her bed, smoothing her wild curls away from her face. "Mad?" "Lily, no. Why would you think that?" She shrugged, her eyes not quite meeting mine. Because I made things weird with Dad. Because I said things that might have hurt his feelings. Because, she hesitated, because I'm not supposed to pick sides. My heart constricted. Even after her moment of extraordinary courage, she was still carrying the burden of adult feelings on her small shoulders. Listen to me, I said, taking her hands in mine. What you did in that courtroom wasn't about picking sides. It was about speaking your truth, about helping the adults understand what you needed. That's not just okay. It's brave and right. But Dad seemed sad after. I chose my words carefully, determined not to fall into the trap of criticizing Connor to her. Sometimes when people hear something that surprises them or makes them see things differently, they need time to process it. Your dad loves you very much, Lily. I think he just didn't realize how some things were making you feel. Now he knows, and that gives all of us a chance to do better. She seemed to consider this, her brow furrowed in that serious way she had, so much like her expression in the courtroom. Do you think things will be different when I go back to Dad's on Sunday? It was the question I'd been turning over in my mind all week. Would Connor revert to his old patterns once the shock of Lily's testimony wore off? Would Charlotte continue her campaign to establish herself as Lily's new mother? I couldn't predict the future, but I could offer Lily something more valuable than easy reassurances. I think, I said slowly, that your dad wants you to be happy. And now that he understands that having me in your life is important to you, he'll try to respect that. It might take time and there might be some awkward moments, but I believe things will get better. She nodded, seemingly satisfied with my answer. Daniel says that sometimes families are like puzzles where the pieces don't fit perfectly, but if everyone tries, they can still make a beautiful picture. I smiled, warmth spreading through my chest at this evidence of the quiet conversations my husband had been having with my daughter. Daniel is a pretty smart guy. Yeah, Lily agreed, a small smile playing at the corners of her mouth. He's not my real dad, but he's a really good bonus dad. The echo of her courtroom speech, the redefinition of what real meant in the context of family, wasn't lost on me. I leaned down and kissed her forehead one more time. Get some sleep, Moonbeam. Tomorrow's your turn to pick the movie for pizza night. As I closed her door, leaving it open just a crack the way she liked, I found Daniel waiting in the hallway, his back against the wall, clearly having overheard our conversation. Bonus dad, huh? He said softly, a smile crinkling the corners of his eyes. I'll take it. I leaned into him, drawing strength from his solid presence. You're so much more than a bonus to us. He wrapped his arms around me, resting his chin on the top of my head. How are you feeling about Sunday? Sunday. The day we would drive Lily to Connor's house for her week there. The day I would have to trust that the fragile new understanding we'd reached in that courtroom would hold in the real world. Terrified, I admitted. Hopeful. Uncertain. All of the above. We'll take it one day at a time, he said, the simplicity of the statement somehow making it more powerful. And we'll be right here waiting when she comes back to us. Sunday. Arrived too quickly. Lily packed her bags with the efficiency of a child who had grown accustomed to living between two worlds. I noticed she was including things she'd previously kept only at our house. Her favorite sweater, the stuffed otter Daniel had won for her at the state fair, the book of poetry we'd been reading together at bedtime. Small acts of integration that spoke volumes about her newfound sense of security. The drive to Connor's house was quiet. Not tense exactly, but thoughtful. When we pulled into the driveway of the colonial-style home where I had once lived, where I had helped raise Lily, during the early years of her life, a complicated mix of emotions washed over me. This had been my home too once. I had planted the rose bushes that still lined the front walk. I had chosen the blue paint for the shutters. I had memories in every corner of this house, memories that had been rewritten in the aftermath of our divorce. Connor opened the front door before we could even ring the bell. He looked different somehow, more subdued perhaps, or maybe just more thoughtful. He greeted Lily with a warm hug, then straightened and met my eyes. "Thanks for bringing her," he said, the formality in his voice at odds with our history. "Do you want to come in for a minute?" The invitation surprised me. Since our separation, our interactions had been limited to curbside drop-offs and tense exchanges in lawyers' offices or courtrooms. I glanced at Daniel, who gave me an encouraging nod from the driver's seat. "Sure," I said, following Lily inside. The house had changed in subtle ways since I'd last been inside. New furniture, different art on the walls, Charlotte's influence evident in the modern decorative touches that had replaced the warmer, more eclectic style I had favored. But Lily's artwork still hung on the refrigerator, and the family photos along the staircase still included several that showed me with Lily in earlier, happier times. This small detail, that Connor hadn't erased me from the visual history of their home, felt significant. "Lily, why don't you take your things upstairs?" Connor suggested. "I need to talk to your mom for a minute." Lily glanced between us, a flicker of concern crossing her face. I gave her a reassuring smile. "It's okay, sweetie. I'll say goodbye before I leave." Once she had disappeared upstairs, Connor gestured toward the kitchen. "Coffee?" "No thanks," I said, following him but remaining standing while he leaned against the counter. "Daniel's waiting in the car." Connor nodded, running a hand through his hair in a gesture so familiar it gave me a strange sense of déjà vu. I just wanted to say, "I've been thinking a lot about what Lily said in court, and about how things have been between us." I waited, not wanting to interrupt whatever difficult admission he seemed to be working toward. "I've been angry for a long time," he continued. "After we split up, it was easier to make you the villain in the story, I told myself. To convince myself that cutting you out of Lily's life would somehow make things cleaner, simpler." He sighed heavily. "But that's not what she needs. And I didn't realize how much I was hurting her by trying to pretend you weren't important to her." The admission hung in the air between us, more meaningful for how difficult it clearly was for him to make it. "Where's Charlotte?" I asked, noticing her absence in the house that had seemed so full of her presence the last few times I'd picked Lily up. A complicated expression crossed Connor's face. "We're taking a break. After the hearing. Let's just say we had different ideas about what Lily's speech meant for our relationship." I nodded, understanding the unspoken implication. Charlotte had likely seen herself as a replacement for me in Lily's life. Lily's testimony had made it clear that role wasn't available, and Charlotte hadn't been prepared to adjust her expectations. "I'm sorry," I said, and was surprised to find I meant it. Despite everything, I didn't wish unhappiness on Connor. "That must be difficult." He shrugged. "It's for the best. Lily deserves more than someone who's just looking to play house." He paused, then added, "She deserves what she has with you. Someone who loves her for herself, not as an accessory to a relationship." The acknowledgement, so long in coming, so desperately needed, left me momentarily speechless. For years, I had fought to be recognized as Lily's mother in more than just the day-to-day tasks of mothering. To hear Connor finally articulate what I had always known to be true felt like the closing of a wound that had been left open far too long. "Thank you for saying that," I managed finally. "I've scheduled my first therapy appointment," he added, a hint of his old defensiveness creeping back into his voice. "Not because I think there's something wrong with me, but because the judge was right. We all need help figuring out how to make this work. For Lily's sake." "I've made appointments for Daniel and me too," I told him. "And we should probably look into some family sessions eventually, all of us together." Connor nodded, and for a brief moment, I caught a glimpse of the man I had once married. Thoughtful, willing to try, capable of growth. It was a reminder that people are rarely all good or all bad. that even those who hurt us deeply can sometimes find their way to better versions of themselves. "Mom," Lily called from upstairs, "can you come see my room? Dad painted it purple like I wanted." I glanced at Connor, who nodded. "Go ahead. I know she wants to show you." As I climbed the familiar stairs, I marveled at how differently this exchange could have gone. How much anger and resentment had been set aside, however temporarily, to create this moment of unexpected civility. It wasn't forgiveness exactly, and it certainly wasn't forgetting. But it was a step toward something new, something that might eventually become a kind of peace. Lily's room had indeed been painted a soft lavender, with string lights draped around the windows in an unmistakable echo of how we had decorated her room at our house. The parallel wasn't lost on me, Connor making an effort to create continuity between her two homes rather than competition. "Dad says we can put up shelves for my books next weekend," Lily said excitedly, showing me around the transformed space. "And look, he found this at Grandma's house." She pointed to a small wooden jewelry box on her dresser, one I recognized immediately because I had given it to her for her 8th birthday. "I thought this was lost in the move," I said, running my fingers over the hand-painted lid. "Dad found it when he was cleaning out the garage. He said it was important to keep special things, even if they remind you of sad times sometimes, because they're still part of your story." I blinked back unexpected tears at this evidence of Connor's change of heart. Not just in words, but in actions, he was showing Lily, and me, that he was trying to find a new way forward. When it was time for me to leave, Lily hugged me tightly at the front door. "I'll see you next Sunday," she whispered, "and we can FaceTime on Wednesday like the judge said." "I'll be counting the days," I told her, meaning it more than she could possibly understand. "Be good for your dad. I love you to the moon." "And back again," she finished, her smile brightening the lingering sadness of goodbye. Connor walked me to the car, where Daniel waited patiently. The two men exchanged civil nods, not friendly exactly, but without the undercurrent of hostility that had characterized their few previous interactions. "She'll be fine," Connor said as I reached for the car door. "I promise." I nodded, knowing that despite our complicated history, Connor's love for Lily had never been in question. "I know she will. Call if you need anything." The week without, Lily stretched before us like a blank canvas, the first time since the court hearing that Daniel and I would be alone in the house without her bright energy filling the spaces between us. As we drove away from Connor's house, I felt the familiar ache of separation, but it was tempered now by something new. The knowledge that this goodbye was temporary, protected by a court order, and, more importantly, by a fragile new understanding between all the adults in Lily's life. "How was it?" Daniel asked as we pulled onto the main road. "Surprisingly." "Okay," I said, still processing the conversation with Connor. "He seems different, like he's really trying." Daniel reached across the console to take my hand. "People can surprise you sometimes, especially when a smart kid holds up a mirror and makes them really see themselves." I smiled, thinking of Lily standing in that courtroom, small but mighty, speaking truth to power in the simplest, most devastating way. "She's something else, isn't she?" "She is," Daniel agreed. "And she gets it from her mom." The compliment warmed me from the inside out. Daniel had never tried to diminish my role in Lily's life or suggest that our non-biological connection was somehow less valid. From the beginning, he had recognized and honored the mother I had become through love and choice rather than biology. "What should we do with our child-free week?" I asked, consciously shifting my focus from what was missing to what was possible. Daniel grinned, his eyes crinkling at the corners in the way that still made my heart skip. "Well, I have a few ideas." The week passed more quickly than I expected, filled with long postponed date nights, spontaneous decisions to sleep in, and uninterrupted conversations that reminded me why I had fallen in love with Daniel in the first place. We also used the time to prepare for Lily's return, finishing a mosaic stepping stone for the garden that the three of us had started together, researching science camps for the summer that she had expressed interest in, and meeting with a family therapist to discuss how we could best support Lily through this transition period. When Sunday rolled around again and we drove to pick up Lily from Connor's house, I felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. How had the week gone? Would Connor have reverted to his old patterns once the initial shock of the court hearing had worn off? Had Lily been caught in the middle of new tensions? My fears dissolved the moment Connor's front door opened. Lily burst out, her face alight with genuine happiness, a stuffed backpack slung over one shoulder and a cardboard diorama clutched carefully in her hands. "Mom! Daniel! Look what Dad helped me make for my science project. It's the solar system with all the planets to scale, even the dwarf planets." Connor followed behind her, carrying her overnight bag. He looked tired but at ease, and the smile he gave me as he handed over Lily's things held none of the tension that had characterized our exchanges for so long. "She worked really hard on it," he said. "We had to restart Jupiter twice because the papier-mâché kept collapsing." "It looks amazing, Lily," I said, examining the detailed model with appropriate awe. "You've even got the asteroid belt. Dad found this website with all the exact measurements and we converted everything to the right scale," Lily explained proudly. "It's due Tuesday, but it's all finished so you guys don't have to worry about it." The consideration in this statement, Lily, making sure her school project was completed during Connor's week so it wouldn't impact our time together, struck me as both touching and unnecessarily mature. It was another small reminder of how divorce forces children to develop awareness and sensitivities beyond their years. "We would have been happy to help too," Daniel said, carefully loading the diorama into the trunk of our car. "But it looks like you and your dad did an outstanding job." Connor cleared his throat. "Actually, I was thinking, maybe next time she has a big project we could work on it together, all of us? Might be good for Lily to see that we can collaborate on things that matter to her." The suggestion, so unexpected, so contrary to the competitive co-parenting that had characterized our relationship until now, left me momentarily speechless. Daniel, ever the diplomat, stepped into the silence. "That sounds like a great idea," he said. "Maybe for the history fair next month? Lily's been talking about doing something on women code breakers in World War II. Connor nodded, seeming relieved by the positive response. "Yeah, that could work. Just let me know the dates and we can figure something out." As we said our goodbyes and Lily settled into the back seat of our car, chattering excitedly about her week with her dad, I found myself reflecting on how much had changed in such a short time. The walls between our separate worlds were beginning to develop doorways, small tentative openings that might eventually allow us to move beyond the rigid boundaries of your house and my house toward something more fluid and functional. It wasn't perfect. There were still moments of tension, unspoken resentments, old hurts that hadn't fully healed. But for perhaps the first time since our family had fractured, I could envision a future where the jagged edges might eventually smooth into something that, while different from what I had once imagined, could still be beautiful and whole in its own way. On the drive home, Lily regaled us with stories from her week, a movie night with her dad, a video call with her grandmother, a play date with her best friend from school. Normal, everyday activities made special by the enthusiasm with which she recounted them and the absence of the strained silence that had previously surrounded her time at Connor's house. "Oh, and Dad said to tell you that he put the dates of my swim meets in that co-parenting app thing you guys use," she added casually. "He said maybe you could both come, and it wouldn't be weird." I caught Daniel's eye, sharing a moment of quiet surprise at this further evidence of Connor's change of heart. For years, we had carefully divided Lily's activities between us. Connor attending the soccer games that fell during his time, me showing up for the swim meets during mine, both of us avoiding any overlap that might create awkwardness or tension. The suggestion that we might both be present at the same event, that we might set aside our differences to simply be parents supporting their child together, was more meaningful than Lily could possibly understand. "I think that would be really nice," I said, keeping my voice light despite the emotion welling up inside me. "Don't you, Daniel?" "Absolutely," he agreed. "We wouldn't miss it." Lily beamed from the back seat, clearly pleased by this development. "Cool. The first one is in 2 weeks. I'm swimming the 50-meter freestyle and the medley relay." As she launched into a detailed explanation of her training regimen and goals for the upcoming meet, I let her excited voice wash over me, a soundtrack to the scenery passing outside my window. We were headed home, not to the house where I had once lived with Connor, not to some idealized version of family that existed only in greeting cards and sitcoms, but to the home we had built out of love and choice and determination. The path that had brought us here had been winding and difficult, marked by missteps and heartache and moments of despair. But watching Lily's animated reflection in the rearview mirror, seeing the easy way she interacted with Daniel, feeling the weight of Connor's tentative olive branch, I was struck by a profound realization. Sometimes the families we create through adversity and conscious choice are stronger than those we simply inherit or expect. Sometimes the hardest journeys lead us exactly where we need to be. As we pulled into our driveway, Lily unbuckled her seatbelt and leaned forward between the front seats. "I'm glad to be home," she said simply. "I love Dad's house too, but this week I really missed you guys." "We missed you too, Moonbeam," I said, reaching back to squeeze her hand. "More than you can imagine." Daniel turned off the engine and turned to face both of us, his expression serious but gentle. "You know what I was thinking about while you were gone, Lily? About what you said in court, about what makes someone a real parent. And I realized something important." Lily tilted her head, curious. "What?" "That you've given all of us, grown-ups, an incredible gift. You've taught us what family really means, in the ways that actually matter. And I just wanted to say thank you for that." Lily's cheeks flushed pink with pleasure, and perhaps a touch of embarrassment at being credited with such wisdom. "I just said what I felt," she mumbled, suddenly shy. "That's what makes it so powerful," I told her. "The truth usually is." As we gathered her things from the car and made our way inside, I felt a sense of homecoming that went beyond the physical space we were entering. We were coming home to ourselves, to the truth of who we were together. Not a conventional family, perhaps, but a real one. A family built on love and choice and the courage to speak our truths, even when our voices shook. And in that moment, I knew with unshakable certainty that no court ruling, no biological connection, no traditional definition could ever fully capture what we had created together. It was messy and complicated and continuously evolving, but it was also beautiful and authentic and entirely ours. Later that night, after Lily had unpacked and showered and settled back into her room as if she'd never been gone, I found her sitting on her window seat, gazing up at the sliver of moon visible through the glass. "Everything okay?" I asked, sitting beside her. She nodded, still looking at the moon. "I was just thinking about what I said in court, about choosing you." I waited, giving her space to continue in her own time. "I meant it," she said finally, "but I realized something this week. I don't actually have to choose. I can have both. I can have a dad who loves me and a mom who chose me and a bonus dad who makes the best pancakes ever. I can have a weird, complicated family that doesn't look like everyone else's but still works." The wisdom in her words, this child who had navigated divorce and custody battles and adult egos with more grace than any of us deserved, left me humbled and amazed. "That's exactly right," I said, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "And, you know what? That's a much better ending to our story than having to choose sides." She leaned into me, her head resting against my shoulder in the way it had since she was tiny. It's not an ending, though. It's just the middle part, where things start getting better. I smiled into her curls, marveling at the resilience and hope contained in this extraordinary child. You're right. It's not an ending at all. It's a beginning. The next few months unfolded like the gradual changing of seasons, shifts so subtle, you barely notice them day by day, but when you look back, the landscape has transformed entirely. The weekly transitions between homes became smoother, with fewer forgotten items and tearful goodbyes. Connor and I developed a rhythm to our communication, mostly through the co-parenting app, but occasionally through brief civil conversations. During handoffs, Daniel and Connor found an unexpected common ground in their shared love of vintage cars, which gave them something neutral to discuss while Lily gathered her things. The family therapy sessions the judge had ordered began awkwardly but proved more valuable than any of us had anticipated. Dr. Abrams, a woman with kind eyes and an uncanny ability to cut through pretense, created a space where honesty wasn't just permitted, but required. In our third session, she asked each of us to share what we found most difficult about our current arrangement. I hate feeling like I have to censor myself around Lily, Connor admitted. Like I can't express any negative feelings about our situation without it being seen as me trying to turn her against Olivia. I nodded, surprising myself with how much I understood his frustration. And I'm constantly worried that anything good Lily tells me about her time with you will be interpreted as me trying to gather intelligence or find fault. Dr. Abrams smiled slightly. It sounds like you're both walking on eggshells, afraid. That normal co-parenting communication will be weaponized. Exactly, we said in unison, then exchanged startled glances at the unexpected moment of alignment. What about you, Daniel? Dr. Abrams asked. What's been most challenging for you? In this situation, Daniel, who had been quietly supportive throughout our sessions, leaned forward, knowing when to step up and when to step back. I love Lily like she's my own, but I'm always conscious that I'm not her biological father or her legal father. I don't want to overstep, but I also don't want to be distant. Connor studied Daniel with newfound interest. I didn't realize you thought about it that much, he said finally. I guess I assumed you were just, going with the flow. No, Daniel said simply. I think about it every day. About what Lily needs from me. About how to support Olivia without undermining you. About how to be a positive male figure in Lily's life without trying to replace you. Something shifted in Connor's expression. A softening. A recognition. I never thought about it from your perspective before, he admitted. That's a lot to navigate. Dr. Abrams turned to Lily, who had been listening intently to the adult conversation. And what about you, Lily? What's been hardest for you? Lily twisted a strand of hair around her finger, a habit she'd had since she was tiny. I think feeling like I have to be different people in different houses. Like I have to be careful about what I say and who I talk about. If I talk too much about Mom and Daniel when I'm at Dad's, I worry he'll feel bad. And if I talk about how much fun I had with Dad when I'm at Mom's, I don't want her to think I don't like being there too. Her words landed like stones in still water, sending ripples of recognition through all of us. Without meaning to, we had created a situation where Lily felt she needed to compartmentalize her life, to censor her experiences based on which parent she was with. The weight of that emotional labor, something no child should have to carry, was suddenly, painfully clear. What would make that better? Dr. Abrams asked gently. Lily considered the question seriously. If everybody could just, be okay with me loving all of you? If I didn't have to worry about hurting people's feelings just by being honest about my life. The simplicity of her request laid bare how complicated we adults had made things. In our attempts to protect ourselves and Lily from more pain, we had inadvertently created new burdens for her to carry. I think we can do that, I said, looking first at Lily and then at Connor and Daniel. I think we need to do that. Connor nodded slowly. Yeah, that's more than fair. Turned to Lily. I want you to know that it's okay to love your mom and Daniel. It's okay to have fun at their house and to miss them when you're with me. That doesn't hurt my feelings. It just means you have a lot of people who love you and who you love back. Lily's smile, tentative at first, then blooming into something radiant, was worth every moment of discomfort the therapy sessions had caused. Really? Really, Connor confirmed. And hey, maybe we could do a better job of, I don't know, acknowledging that we're all part of your life? Maybe we could find ways to make it feel less separated? That conversation led to small but significant changes. Connor began texting me photos of Lily's activities during his weeks, rather than waiting for Lily to share them herself. I started making sure Lily called her dad to share exciting news, even during our weeks. Daniel and Connor exchanged phone numbers, creating a direct line of communication for the times when both Lily's fathers needed to coordinate without going through me. And then came Lily's 12th birthday, the first major celebration since the court hearing that had changed everything. In previous years, we had held separate parties. Connor would have Lily on her actual birthday if it fell during his week, or on the weekend closest to it during his time, and I would do the same during mine. 2 cakes, 2 sets of presents, 2 celebrations that never acknowledged the other's existence. This year, as Lily's birthday approached, she made a simple request that would have been unthinkable just months before. I want one party with everyone there, not 2 separate ones. The old tension immediately resurfaced, Connor and I exchanging wary glances over Lily's head, each of us mentally calculating the infinite ways such an event could go wrong. But the hope in Lily's eyes made it impossible to revert to our old patterns of separation and avoidance. I think that could work, I said carefully. What do you think, Connor? He hesitated, then nodded. If that's what Lily wants, we'll figure it out. The planning itself became an exercise in cooperation and compromise. We agreed to hold the party at a neutral location, a local park with a pavilion that could be reserved for gatherings. Connor would handle the food and drinks, Daniel volunteered to manage games and activities, and I took responsibility for decorations and the cake. Lily wanted a science-themed celebration, reflecting her growing interest in astronomy and physics, so we coordinated to ensure there were no duplicate gifts or overlapping elements. As the day approached, my anxiety grew. What if Connor reverted to his old hostility? What if his parents, who had always been cool toward me even before the divorce, created tension? What if the whole experiment in unified celebration exploded, in our faces, leaving Lily more hurt than before? Daniel found me the night before the party, sitting at the kitchen table surrounded by star-shaped decorations and cosmic-themed party favors, my mind clearly elsewhere. "It's going to be okay," he said, sitting beside me and taking my hands in his. "Everyone wants this to work for Lily's sake." "I know," I sighed. "But wanting something and actually making it happen are 2 different things." He smiled, that steady, reassuring smile that had been my anchor through so many storms. "Then we'll take it one moment at a time. And if things get tense, we'll step away, take a breath, and remember why we're all there. Because we love that amazing kid." The morning of the party dawned bright and clear, a perfect spring day. Daniel and I arrived at the park an hour early to set up decorations, transforming the simple pavilion into a cosmic wonderland with twinkling lights, planet mobiles, and banners decorated with stars and scientific equations. I was hanging the last of the decorations when Connor's car pulled into the parking lot. My stomach tightened instinctively, old reflexes dying hard. But as Connor approached, Lily bouncing excitedly beside him with a stack of science books she planned to share with her friends, I noticed something unexpected. He looked nervous too. Not angry or defensive, just uncertain, as if he also wasn't quite sure how to navigate this new territory. "This looks amazing," he said, gesturing to the decorations. "Very NASA." "Thanks," I replied, surprised by the compliment. Lily helped design most of it. An awkward silence fell between us, filled with all the things we didn't know how to say, acknowledgments of how far we'd come, fears about maintaining this fragile peace, uncertainty about our roles in this new configuration of family. Lily, oblivious to the undercurrents, broke the tension. "Dad brought the coolest thing. Show them, Dad." Connor reached into his car and pulled out what looked like a small projector. "It's a star lamp," he explained. "It projects actual constellations onto the ceiling or walls. I thought we could use it inside the pavilion since it's partly enclosed. Might be cool when we serve the cake." The thoughtfulness of the gesture, how perfectly it fit the theme, how clearly it showed he had put real consideration into making Lily's party special, touched me unexpectedly. "That's perfect," I said. "Lily's going to love it." As guests began to arrive, Lily's friends from school, neighbors, family members from both sides, I watched with a mixture of amazement and tentative hope as our separated worlds began to merge. My parents, who had always maintained a polite distance from Connor since the divorce, engaged him in genuine conversation about Lily's swimming achievements. Connor's mother, who had once been openly critical of my parenting, helped Daniel set up the science experiment stations with unexpected warmth. The moment that perhaps crystallized the shift most clearly came halfway through the party. Lily was opening presents, surrounded by a circle of friends and family, when she unwrapped a telescope, a significant gift that made her eyes widen with delight. "This is incredible!" she exclaimed, reading the card attached. "Thank you so much," one of her friends asked who it was from, and Lily looked up with a smile that encompassed Connor, Daniel, and me where we stood together at the edge of the circle. "It's from my parents," she said simply. "All of them." The gift had been Connor's idea, a collaboration among the three of us, chosen after several thoughtful conversations about what would truly light up Lily's curious mind. We had each contributed equally to its cost, had researched models together, had made the final selection as a team. It was the first time we had presented ourselves to Lily as a unified front rather than competing entities, and the joy in her face made every awkward moment of cooperation worthwhile. Later, as the party wound down and guests began to leave, Connor approached me where I stood watching Daniel teach Lily and a few remaining friends how to use the telescope. "This was good," he said quietly. "Better than I expected." I nodded, feeling the same mix of surprise and relief. It was. And it meant everything to Lily. "She deserves this," Connor said, his eyes still on our daughter. "To have days when she doesn't have to choose, when she can just be happy with all the people who love her." The simple truth of his statement hit me with unexpected force. For so long, I had been fighting for my place in Lily's life, defending my right to be called her mother despite our lack of biological connection. I had been so focused on what I deserved that I had sometimes lost sight of what Lily deserved, the freedom to love and be loved without division or guilt. "She does," I agreed. "And maybe this doesn't have to be a one-time thing. Maybe there are other occasions when we could do this, come together for her." Connor was quiet for a moment, considering. "School events," he suggested finally. "Concerts, science fairs. Maybe we could all go together sometimes, instead of dividing them up or having her look out at a sea of faces and have to decide who to wave to first." The image he painted, Lily on stage searching separate sections of an audience for her divided family, made my heart ache. "Yes," I said, "I'd like that." It wasn't a dramatic reconciliation, no tearful hugs or profound apologies, just a quiet moment of adult understanding, of two people who had once loved each other, then hated each other. finally finding their way to something like respect for the sake of the child they both adored. The real test of our new understanding came 2 weeks later at Lily's first swim meet of the season. Daniel and I arrived early, claiming seats in the middle of the bleachers with a clear view of the pool. I scanned the growing crowd nervously, unsure if Connor would actually show up or if the goodwill of the birthday party would prove fleeting. 10 minutes before the meet was set to begin, I spotted him making his way through the crowd, searching the stands. Without thinking, I raised my hand to wave him over. He hesitated for just a moment before climbing the bleachers to join us. "Is this seat taken?" he asked, gesturing to the empty space beside me. "It's yours," I replied, shifting slightly to make room. "We saved it for you." The simple exchange, so normal, so civilized, would have been unimaginable just months before. As we sat together watching Lily warm up with her team, I couldn't help but reflect on how far we had come from that tense courtroom where Connor had declared I wasn't Lily's real mother. Lily spotted us in the stands before her first race, her eyes widening in surprise and then delight when she saw all three of us sitting together. She gave us an enthusiastic thumbs up before taking her position on the starting block. "She looks nervous," Connor murmured, noticing the tension in Lily's shoulders. "She always is before the first race," I agreed. "But once she hits the water, she'll be fine." Daniel leaned forward. "She's been practicing her starts all week. Watch how much faster she enters the water now." The conversation flowed with surprising ease. 3 adults united in their knowledge of and love for this one extraordinary child. When Lily's race began, we all leaned forward in unison, breaths held, eyes fixed on her form as she sliced through the water. And when she touched the wall first, our cheers merged into a single sound of pride and joy. Later, dripping and triumphant, Lily rushed to us in the viewing area. Did you see my time? It's a personal best." "We saw," Connor assured her, wrapping a towel around her shoulders. "You were amazing, Lilybug. The way you maintained your form in the last 20 meters was incredible," Daniel added, specific and technical in his praise in the way that always made Lily beam. "And your start was perfect," I said, smoothing her wet hair back from her forehead. "Just like you've been practicing." Lily looked at the 3 of us, her smile so bright it seemed to illuminate her from within. "You guys are all here together," she said, stating the obvious but in a tone that made clear how much it meant to her. "Of course we are," Connor said, his voice gentler than I had heard it in years. "We wouldn't miss it." The simplicity of the moment, a child being celebrated by the adults who loved her, without tension or division, felt revolutionary in its ordinariness. This was what family should be, I realized. Not perfect, not without history or complications, but present and united when it mattered most. As the months passed, these moments of unity became more frequent, less forced. Connor and I still disagreed at times about parenting decisions, still occasionally bristled at perceived slights or old wounds reopened. But the pattern had fundamentally shifted from one of opposition to one of collaboration, however imperfect. The most unexpected development came nearly a year after the court hearing that had changed everything. I was at work, focused on helping a patient recover from knee surgery when my phone rang with Connor's number. My first thought was that something had happened to Lily, and I answered with barely concealed panic. "Is everything okay? Is Lily all right?" "She's fine," Connor assured me quickly. "She's at school. This is actually about something else, something I wanted to run by you before I make any decisions." The hesitation in his voice piqued my curiosity. "What's going on?" "I've been offered a job," he said. "A good one, with better pay, better hours, the kind of opportunity that doesn't come around often." "That's great," I said, genuinely pleased for him. Better hours would mean more quality time with Lily and financial security for her future. It was something we both wanted. But why do you need to run it by me? There was a long pause. Because it's in Seattle. The implication hit me like a physical blow. Seattle was over 2,000 miles away from our current city. If Connor took this job, our carefully constructed co-parenting arrangement would collapse. The weekly transitions, the shared activities, the delicate balance we had finally achieved, all of it would become impossible. I see, I managed, trying to keep my voice steady despite the sudden tightness in my chest. And what are you thinking? I'm thinking I can't take it, he said simply. I won't do that to Lily. Not now, not when she's finally settled, when things are finally working between all of us. The selflessness of his decision, putting Lily's stability above his own professional advancement, moved me deeply. It was perhaps the clearest evidence yet of how much he had grown, how far he had come from the man who had once tried to erase me from our daughter's life. That's a big decision, Connor. Are you sure? I'm sure about what Lily needs, he said. She needs both of her parents. She needs the life we've built for her here. She needs the stability we've finally managed to create together. The use of the word together, acknowledging our shared role in Lily's well-being, wasn't lost on me. It represented a fundamental shift in how Connor viewed our relationship, not as adversaries fighting over a child, but as partners raising her together, albeit from separate homes. Thank you, I said, meaning it from the depths of my heart, for considering Lily first, and for telling me. Actually, Connor continued, there's something else I wanted to discuss with you, something I've been thinking about for a while now. What's that? Legal adoption, he said. You adopting Lily formally, making official what's already true in every way that matters. I nearly dropped the phone, stunned by the unexpected offer. Legal adoption had been a distant dream, something I'd privately longed for but had never dared to raise, certain Connor would see it as a threat to his own parental rights. Connor, are you serious? Completely, he said. Lily has 2 parents who love her, 3, counting Daniel. That should be recognized legally, not just emotionally. If something ever happened to me, I'd want to know for certain that she would stay with you, that no distant relative or the system could ever challenge your right to be her mother. Tears welled in my eyes, spilling over before I could stop them. I don't know what to say. Say you'll think about it, Connor suggested. We can talk to Lily together, see how she feels. And there are legal details to work out. This wouldn't change my rights as her father. But it would give you the legal standing you've earned through years of being her mother in every way that counts. As I hung up the phone, I sat in stunned silence, trying to absorb the magnitude of what had just occurred. From she's not your real mom in that courtroom to offering legal adoption less than a year later, it was a transformation I could never have predicted or even hoped for. That evening, I shared Connor's call with Daniel, still processing the emotions it had stirred. He's doing the right thing, Daniel said when I told him about Connor's decision to turn down the Seattle job. And the adoption offer. Liv, that's incredible. That's everything you've wanted for years. I know, I said, still feeling slightly dazed by the development. I just can't believe how much has changed. How much he's changed. Daniel considered this, his expression thoughtful. I don't think it's just Connor who's changed. I think you have too. You've both found a way to put Lily first, to see each other as whole people rather than just obstacles or threats. His observation struck me as profoundly true. The journey hadn't been one-sided. I had also needed to grow, to let go of old resentments, to recognize Connor's love for Lily as equal to my own, rather than as competition. The conversation with Lily about adoption happened the following weekend, with all 3 of us, Connor, Daniel, and me, present to answer her questions and address any concerns. We sat in our living room, the afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows, creating a warm, safe space for what could have been a difficult discussion. "So," Lily said after we had explained the concept of legal adoption and what it would mean, "this wouldn't change anything about how things are now? I'd still spend time with both of you the same way?" "Exactly," Connor assured her. "This just makes official what we already know, that Olivia is your mom in every way that matters. It protects that relationship legally." Lily looked at me, her eyes serious. "And this is something you want? To adopt me officially?" "More than anything," I told her, my voice thick with emotion. "But only if it's what you want too. This is your life, your family. You get a say in this decision." She was quiet for a moment, considering the question with the careful thoughtfulness that was so characteristic of her. Then a slow smile spread across her face, lighting up her eyes. "I think it would be pretty cool," she said, "to make it official, that I have the best mom in the world, the one who chose me." The simplicity of her acceptance, the lack of drama or confusion, was perhaps the greatest gift of all. For Lily, this wasn't some monumental shift in her understanding of family. It was simply the legal recognition of what she had always known to be true. As spring turned to summer, we began the legal process of second-parent adoption. There were forms to fill out, home studies to complete, court dates to schedule. But unlike the adversarial legal proceedings of the past, this process felt healing, restorative, a formal acknowledgement of the family we had built through love and choice rather than biology. One warm evening in July, as fireflies began to appear in our backyard and the sky turned the deep purple of approaching night, Lily found me sitting on the porch swing, lost in thought. "What are you thinking about?" she asked, settling beside me, her growing limbs now long enough that her feet could touch the porch floor to keep the swing in motion. "Just everything," I admitted. "How far we've all come since that day in court. How much has changed." Lily nodded, her expression wise beyond her years. "You know what I think?" she said after a moment of companionable silence. "What's that, Moonbeam?" "I think sometimes the universe breaks things apart so they can come back together in a better way," she said, her eyes on the emerging stars. "Like, maybe Mom and Dad weren't supposed to stay married, but they were supposed to learn how to be better parents because of what happened. And maybe you weren't supposed to be my birth mom, but you were definitely supposed to be my real mom." The wisdom in her words, this child who had navigated adult conflicts with more grace than any of us deserved, left me speechless for a moment. I wrapped an arm around her shoulders, drawing her close. "When did you get so smart?" I asked, only half jokingly. She shrugged, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "I don't know. Maybe I just had really good teachers, all of you, showing me that family isn't about who matches your DNA. It's about who shows up, who stays, who fights for you even when it's hard." As the stars emerged one by one in the darkening sky, I held my daughter close, marveling at the journey that had brought us to this moment of peace. The path had been winding and difficult, marked by pain and conflict and moments of despair. But sitting there with Lily's head on my shoulder, I knew with absolute certainty that every step had been worth it. Family, I had learned, isn't defined by blood or by legal documents, though the adoption would soon make official what my heart had known for years. Family is defined by love that perseveres, by showing up day after day, by choosing each other even when, especially when, it would be easier to walk away. And sometimes, the most powerful lessons about what family truly means come not from the adults who think they know everything, but from the children who see with clarity what really matters. Not who gives birth to you, but who gives part of themselves to raise you. Not who shares your features, but who mirrors your heart. Not who claims you, but who chooses you over and over again, through all the messy, beautiful complexity of growing up together. As Lily and I sat watching the stars emerge, I made a silent promise to her and to myself that no matter what challenges lay ahead, no matter how our family might continue to evolve and grow, I would always remember what she had taught all of us in that courtroom and every day since, that being a real parent has nothing to do with biology and everything to do with love. That family isn't defined by convention, but by commitment. And that sometimes the most profound truths come from the mouths of children brave enough to speak them aloud. 3 years have passed since that pivotal day in the courtroom when Lily stood up and redefined what it means to be a real mother. She's 15 now, taller than me by half an inch, a fact she reminds me of daily with playful smugness. Her wild blonde curls have been tamed into a sleek bob that frames her increasingly adult features, but her eyes remain the same, perceptive, kind, missing nothing. The adoption was finalized 2 summers ago, on a bright Tuesday morning in a courtroom very different from the one where our journey began. This one was filled with smiles and flowers, and a judge who beamed as she signed the papers that made official what our hearts had known for years. I was Lily's mother in every way. That mattered, legally, emotionally, completely. Connor stood beside us that day, his presence a powerful statement about how far we had all come. When the judge asked if he had anything to say before she finalized the adoption, he surprised everyone, including me. "Your Honor," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I want the record to show that this adoption isn't happening because Olivia Mitchell isn't already Lily's mother. She has been her mother in every meaningful way since Lily was 3 years old. This is simply the law catching up to what has always been true." Those words, a public affirmation of what he had once so vehemently denied, meant more to me than any legal document ever could. They represented the completion of a journey that had begun with, "She's not your real mom," and ended with the recognition that motherhood is earned through love and presence, not conferred through biology alone. The years since have brought their own challenges, of course. Navigating Lily's entry into adolescence has required new forms of coordination between our households. The sweet child who once needed help with science projects and bedtime stories now comes to us with questions about dating, social media pressures, and her emerging identity. But the framework we established in those early days after the court hearing has served us well, allowing us to approach each new phase as allies rather than adversaries. Our weekly transitions have become so smooth they're almost invisible. Lily packs her things on Sunday afternoons without reminders, comfortable in the knowledge that both houses are equally her home. Connor and I text regularly about school, events, health concerns, and the minor crises of teenage life. Daniel and Connor have developed a relationship independent of me, occasionally meeting for coffee to discuss Lily's increasingly complex world without the history that sometimes complicates my interactions with my ex-husband. But perhaps the most profound change has been in how Lily herself navigates her blended family. The child who once felt she had to compartmentalize her life, to be different versions of herself in different houses, now moves fluidly between her worlds. She speaks freely about activities with her dad when she's with us, and about time with Daniel and me when she's with Connor. She's stopped performing the emotional labor of protecting adult feelings and has embraced the simple truth that having multiple parents who love her is a blessing, not a source of conflict. Today marks a special milestone, Lily's induction into the National Honor Society, a recognition of her academic excellence and character that has filled all of us with immeasurable pride. As we file into the school auditorium, finding seats, together without awkwardness or tension, I can't help but marvel at how ordinary this moment feels. 3 parents united in celebration of their child's achievements. Connor leans over to whisper, "Did you see the list of colleges she's looking at? When did she get old enough for that?" I shake my head, equally bewildered by the speed with which our little girl is becoming a young woman. "I know. Daniel and I were just saying the same thing last night. It's happening too fast." "Speaking of college visits," Connor continues, I was thinking we should coordinate. Maybe take turns with the campus tours so she gets to see all her options without any of us having to miss work too much. The casual cooperation in his suggestion, so different from the territorial battles of our past, warms me from the inside out. That's a great idea. Let's make a plan after the ceremony. As the principal takes the stage and begins the induction ceremony, I feel Daniel's hand slip into mine, a silent gesture of support and shared joy. On my other side, Connor sits tall and proud, his eyes fixed on the stage where Lily will soon appear. We are not a conventional family by any definition. Our path has been winding and difficult, marked by conflict and heartache and moments of profound doubt. But sitting here together, waiting to celebrate our daughter's accomplishments, I am struck by how successful we have been at the one thing that truly matters, loving Lily well. When her name is called and she walks across the stage, all three of us rise to our feet in unison, applauding with uninhibited pride. Lily spots us in the crowd, her smile widening at the sight of her united family. She gives us a small private wave before accepting her certificate and pin, a moment of connection that transcends the formality of the ceremony. Later, as we gather in the school cafeteria for the reception, a teacher approaches us with a curious expression. "I'm sorry," she says, glancing between Connor, Daniel, and me, "but I'm a bit confused about your family arrangement. Lily mentioned having 3 parents in her application essay, but I wasn't sure exactly how that worked." Before any of us can respond, Lily appears at my side, slipping her arm through mine with easy affection. "It's not complicated, Ms. Rivera," she says with the confidence that has become her hallmark. "This is my dad, Connor. This is my mom, Olivia. And this is my bonus dad, Daniel. They all raised me, just in different ways." The simplicity of her explanation, free from the baggage of terms like step or biological or adoptive, strikes me as profoundly wise. In Lily's world, family isn't defined by conventional labels or societal expectations, but by the reality of who has shown up for her, who has loved her, who has helped shape her into the remarkable young woman she is becoming. Ms. Rivera smiles, seemingly satisfied with this explanation. "Well, Lily is an exceptional student and person. You should all be very proud." "We are," the 3 of us respond in near-perfect unison, drawing surprised laughter from all of us. As the teacher moves on to greet other families, Connor turns to Lily with a curious expression. "An application essay about having 3 parents? What was that about?" Lily shrugs, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. "It was for that scholarship program, the one about overcoming adversity and finding strength in difficult circumstances. I wrote about how our family evolved from conflict to cooperation, and how it taught me that sometimes the hardest challenges can lead to the most beautiful outcomes." Her words catch me off guard, a reminder that while we adults have been focused on the logistics of co-parenting, the schedules and transitions and practical details, Lily has been absorbing deeper lessons about resilience, growth, and the capacity for change. "Did you win the scholarship?" Daniel asks, his arm settling comfortably around my shoulders. Lily grins, her eyes sparkling with mischief and pride. "I find out next week, but Ms. Rivera said it was the most compelling essay she's read in 20 years of teaching, so I think I have a pretty good shot." As we make our way to a nearby restaurant for a celebratory dinner, I find myself reflecting on the journey that brought us to this moment of harmony and mutual respect. The path wasn't straight or easy. There were setbacks along the way, disagreements about curfews and homework policies, tensions when Connor briefly dated a woman who was uncomfortable with our co-parenting arrangement, moments when old wounds reopened unexpectedly. But with each challenge, we returned to the foundation Lily had helped us build that day in court. The understanding that her need for all her parents mattered more than our adult grievances or ego needs. And slowly, sometimes painfully, we learned to be the adults she deserved. Adults who could put aside their differences to celebrate her victories and support her through difficulties. At the restaurant, Connor proposes a toast. To Lily, he says, raising his glass, who has always been smarter than all of us combined, and whose courage 3 years ago changed everything for the better. To Lily, Daniel and I echo, our glasses joining his in a gesture of unity that once seemed impossible. Lily ducks her head, both pleased and embarrassed by the attention. I didn't do anything special, she protests. I just told the truth. Sometimes, I tell her, telling the truth when it would be easier to stay silent is the bravest thing anyone can do. You showed all of us what courage looks like. As we enjoy our meal, the conversation flows easily from college plans to summer vacation possibilities to Lily's latest obsession with astrophysics. It's the kind of ordinary family dinner that happens in millions of homes every night. Remarkable only in how unremarkable it feels despite the complicated history that brought us to this table. After dinner, as we walk to our cars, Lily surprises us with a request. I want to show you guys something, she says, pulling a folded paper from her pocket. It's the essay I wrote for the scholarship. I brought copies for each of you. The gesture, so thoughtful, so characteristic of the person Lily has become, touches me deeply. I'd love to read it, I tell her, accepting my copy with careful hands. Maybe not right now, she says, suddenly shy. Maybe when you're alone. It's pretty personal. We honor her request, tucking the folded papers away until later. When Lily leaves with Connor for her week at his house, there are no tearful goodbyes or anxious reminders. Just a quick hug, a love you to the moon, and the comfortable knowledge that she'll be back in 7 days, bringing stories and dirty laundry and her boundless energy back into our home. That night, curled up with Daniel in our bedroom, I unfold Lily's essay and begin to read. Her words, thoughtful, articulate, deeply personal, tell the story of our family's transformation through her eyes. She writes about the tension she felt in those early days after the divorce, the way she learned to read adult moods and adjust her behavior accordingly. She describes the pain of feeling divided, of watching the people she loved most struggle to coexist peacefully. But the heart of her essay focuses not on the conflict, but on the healing. On that day in court when she found her voice, and on all the small moments afterward when the adults in her life chose to put their differences aside for her sake. She writes about watching Connor help me hang a swing in our backyard because Daniel was away on business. About seeing Daniel and Connor cheer side by side at her swim meets. About the family therapy sessions where hard truths were spoken and heard without defensive anger. The final paragraph brings tears to my eyes. People often talk about broken homes as if divorce inevitably damages children. But what I've learned is that a home isn't broken when parents live in different houses. It's broken when children have to fragment themselves to keep the peace, when love comes with conditions, when adults can't put aside their own pain for the sake of their children. By that definition, our home was broken for a while. But it isn't anymore. Now I have 3 parents who have learned to love me more than they dislike each other, who have created a new kind of family that isn't defined by traditional boundaries, but by conscious choice and ongoing effort. I don't live in a broken home. I live in a rebuilt one, stronger at the mended places, more beautiful for having been fractured and put back together with care. I pass the essay to Daniel, watching as he reads, as his eyes grow damp with emotion. When he finishes, he looks up at me with wonder. She sees it all so clearly, he says softly. Everything we tried to do, everything we struggled with. She really sees us. She always has, I reply, thinking of the perceptive child who noticed every subtle slight, every unspoken tension. I just hope she knows how much we all learned from her. The next morning, I receive a text from Connor. Read Lily's essay. Last night. Had no idea she was taking in so much. We did okay, didn't we? Despite everything. I smile at the simple message, at the tentative pride it contains. "We did," I text back. "She's extraordinary, and a lot of that is because of you." It's a truth I've come to accept over the years, that despite our difficult history, despite the pain we caused each other during our marriage and its aftermath, Connor has been a good father to Lily. Different from me in his approach, certainly, but consistent in his love and presence. And acknowledging that truth no longer feels like a concession or a threat to my own place in Lily's life. It feels like simple honesty, like the recognition that love isn't a zero-sum game where one person's gain must be another's loss. A week later, Lily bursts through our front door with uncontained excitement, waving an envelope above her head. "I got it!" she shouts, her voice echoing through the house. "I won the scholarship!" Daniel emerges from his home office, and I abandon the dinner preparations in the kitchen to meet her in the living room. "That's amazing," I exclaim, pulling her into a hug. "I knew you would." "We have to call Dad," she says immediately, already pulling out her phone. "He'll be so excited." The casual way she includes Connor in our celebration, the absence of any hesitation or worry about divided loyalties, fills me with quiet joy. This is what we worked for, what we struggled through those difficult early days to achieve. A child who moves freely between her worlds, secure in the love of all her parents. Connor answers on the second ring, and Lily puts him on speakerphone to share her news. His enthusiastic congratulations fill our living room, his pride in her achievement evident in every word. There's no awkwardness, no tension in this moment of shared parenting, just three adults celebrating a child they all love. "We should do something special to celebrate," Connor suggests. "All of us together." "Actually," Lily says, "I was thinking maybe we could go back to that park where we had my birthday party a few years ago. The first time we all celebrated something together. Maybe have a picnic this weekend?" The symbolism of her suggestion, returning to the site of our first successful attempt at unified parenting, isn't lost on any of us. "I think that's a wonderful idea," I tell her, meeting Daniel's eyes across the room. He nods in agreement. "Count me in," Connor says through the phone. "I'll bring those cookies Lily likes from the bakery near my office." As we end the call, and Lily bounds upstairs to text her friends about the scholarship, I'm struck once again by how far we've come from those tense early days after the divorce. The journey wasn't linear. There were setbacks and difficult moments, times when old wounds reopened unexpectedly. But with each challenge, we found our way back to the central truth that Lily helped us see in that courtroom, that her need for all her parents outweighed any adult grievances or ego needs. The weekend picnic in the park becomes another milestone in our family's evolution. Connor brings not just the promised cookies, but also a small telescope, a nod to Lily's growing interest in astronomy, and a callback to that first joint gift we gave her years ago. Daniel packs a frisbee and a soccer ball, knowing Lily's boundless energy will eventually need an outlet. I prepare her favorite foods, the familiar comfort of homemade specialties that have marked celebrations throughout her life. As we spread our blankets on the grass under the dappled shade of oak trees, I'm struck by how natural it feels now. This gathering of people connected not by conventional family ties, but by their love for one remarkable girl. Connor's new girlfriend, Maya, joins us, her initial nervousness fading as she sees how easily we all interact. Unlike Charlotte all those years ago, Maya has no interest in replacing me in Lily's life. She's content to be another adult who cares for Lily, who supports her growth and celebrates her achievements. After lunch, as Lily and Maya examine something in the distance through the telescope, Connor sits beside me on the blanket, his expression thoughtful. "I've been thinking a lot lately," he says, his voice low enough that only I can hear. "About that day in court, about what I said." I tense slightly, uncertain where this conversation is heading. We've rarely spoken directly about that painful confrontation, preferring to focus on moving forward rather than looking back. I was so wrong, Connor continues, his eyes on Lily rather than me. Not just about you not being her real mom, but about what family even means. I was stuck in this narrow definition: biology, legal documents, traditional structures. I couldn't see that family is created through love and care and showing up day after day. The admission, so long in coming, so unexpected in this moment of celebration, catches me off guard. We were all learning, I say gently, all doing the best we could with what we understood at the time. He shakes his head slightly. You were miles ahead of me. You always saw Lily first, her needs, her feelings. I was so caught up in my own pain, in winning some imaginary contest, that I lost sight of what actually mattered. I consider his words touched by the humility they contain. Maybe, I acknowledge, but you found your way there, and that's what counts in the end. He nods, his gaze still fixed on Lily as she laughs at something Maya has said. I just wanted you to know, I see it now. I see what you've always been to her, what you've always done for her. And I'm grateful, truly grateful that she has you. The words settle between us like a blessing, a final healing of a wound that had once seemed beyond repair. Thank you, I say simply. That means more than, you know. As the afternoon unfolds in a lazy, golden haze of conversation and games and shared memories, I find myself reflecting on the long, complicated journey that brought us to this moment of peace. If someone had told me 3 years ago, as I sat in that tense courtroom listening to Connor declare I wasn't Lily's real mother, that we would one day be here, sharing a picnic blanket, co-parenting with genuine respect, celebrating our daughter's achievements together, I would never have believed it possible. The transformation didn't happen overnight. It came in small moments of choice, in decisions to set aside pride for Lily's sake, in the gradual recognition that we could all have a place in her life without diminishing each other's importance. It came through hard conversations in therapy, through tentative experiments in cooperation, through the slow rebuilding of trust that had been shattered in the aftermath of our divorce. But perhaps the most important catalyst for change was Lily herself. Her courage in speaking her truth that day in court, her unwillingness to fragment herself to accommodate adult insecurities, her consistent message that she needed all of us, not just parts of us. In many ways, she became the teacher while we were the students, showing us through her resilience and wisdom what family could look like if we were brave enough to reimagine it. As the sun begins to set, casting long shadows across the park, grass, Lily gathers us together for a photo. All of us, this unconventional family unit built not on tradition, but on love and conscious choice. Daniel sets up his phone on a timer, and we arrange ourselves on the picnic blanket, smiles genuine, arms around each other without awkwardness or tension. Okay, everyone say, "We rebuilt this," Lily instructs, referencing the closing line of her scholarship essay. "We rebuilt this," we chorus as the camera flashes, capturing this moment of harmony that once seemed impossible. Later that night, as Lily prepares to return to Connor's house for the remainder of her week there, she hugs me tightly at the door. "Today was perfect," she whispers. "Thank you for making it happen." "It wasn't just me," I remind her. "It was all of us. You, me, Daniel, your dad, even Maya. We all chose to be here together." She pulls back, her eyes meeting mine with that searching intelligence that has always been her hallmark. "Do you think other families could learn to do what we did? To stop fighting and start working together?" The question gives me pause, makes me consider the broader implications of our family's journey. I think, I say carefully, that any family can change if the adults are willing to put the children's needs above their own pride or pain. It isn't easy. It takes time and courage and a lot of hard conversations. But yes, I believe it's possible. Lily nods, satisfied with this answer. Maybe that's what I'll do with my life, she says, half serious, half teasing. Help other families figure out how to rebuild after divorce. Be like a family architect or something. I laugh, touched by her ambition to transform our personal journey into something that might help others. You'd be amazing at that. You already are. As she leaves with Connor and Maya, the three of them chatting easily about plans for the week ahead, I stand in the doorway watching until their car disappears around the corner. Daniel joins me, his arm slipping around my waist in a gesture of comfort and connection that has become as natural as breathing. "Penny for your thoughts," he says, noticing my reflective mood. "I was just thinking about how far we've come," I tell him. "How impossible this all would have seemed 3 years ago. How much we've all had to grow and change to get here." He nods, understanding immediately. It's been quite a journey, but worth every difficult step. We turn back into our home, the home we've created together, the home that becomes complete when Lily's laughter fills its rooms every other week. It's not the life I imagined when I first met Connor all those years ago. Not the traditional family structure I once thought was the only valid model. It's messier, more complicated, requiring more intentional communication and conscious choice. But as I look around at the evidence of Lily's presence in our home, her science textbook stacked on the coffee table, her swimming medals hanging, on the wall, her artwork displayed prominently in the dining room, I know with absolute certainty that this rebuilt family, with all its complexities and unconventional boundaries, is exactly where I'm meant to be. Family, I've learned, isn't defined by biology or legal documents or societal expectations. It's defined by love that perseveres, by showing up day after day, by choosing each other even when, especially when, it would be easier to walk away. And sometimes, the most profound lessons about what family truly means come from the children who see with clarity what really matters. Not who gives birth to you, but who gives part of themselves to raise you. Not who shares your features, but who mirrors your heart. Not who claims you, but who chooses you, over and over again, through all the messy, beautiful complexity of growing up together. As night falls and the house grows quiet, I think of Lily's words in her essay. "I don't live in a broken home. I live in a rebuilt one, stronger at the mended places, more beautiful for having been fractured and put back together with care." And I know that in this rebuilding, in this conscious creation of family beyond conventional boundaries, we have all found something precious, a love not limited by biology or tradition, but expanded by choice and commitment and the courage to begin again. In the end, that's what family truly is. Not who you're born to, but who you choose to become family with every single day. And in that choice, in that daily commitment to love beyond boundaries and expectations, we find the true meaning of what it means to be real in the ways that matter most. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe. And turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.